Hey everybody, it's Joe Dungan, and I'm back. I'm doing interviews again. This is take one of this. I'm just going to do some kind of an intro, and I just watched the interview, and I didn't even edit it. I got 24 minutes from beginning to end. I like it. I'm just leaving it because I want to replicate the feel of what we do when we did it live. You couldn't edit a live show, so we just did it, and I did it on Zoom. I did it with an old friend of mine from college, Cindi Braun Marsten. She is an ER nurse. She has seen some you know what in this pandemic. And we talk a little bit about her journey to become an ER nurse and finding her purpose. I wanted to call this talk show On Purpose, but that's been taken, which figures because there are about 9 million podcasts now. So I don't know what to call it. I don't think anyone's called a talk show after Joe Dungan's name. So I might just call it Talk Show with Joe Dungan or Joe Dungan's Talk Show. Does it matter? I don't know. Maybe I'll put it to a vote. What do you think? You have a good name for it? You call it whatever you want. Uh, so I just decided. I was hung up. I'm going, what do I want this to be? Do I have a monologue? Do we do this monthly? We can't get a live audience. I'm sick of Zoom. Aren't you sick of Zoom? I'm sick of Zoom. I've just done so much shit on Zoom. I'm just tired of it. So I just thought, okay, I'll do this interview on Zoom. What choice do we have, right? But then I just wanted to try to not make it polished. So it's literally one 24-minute chunk, unedited, and there's some extras which I'll probably post later. She and I start chatting about the old days and get a little silly. It's not quite as professional, so some of that's entertaining. I'll put that up later sometime. And I just wanted to put a little intro in here saying what it is, what you're about to see. This is, I guess, the return of the talk show. I don't even know. That's the nice thing. It's not like it's etched in stone. I don't have to do it a certain way. I can add a monologue if I want. I can add a monologue later. I can tack one on later and say, oh, by the way, remember that talk show I did with the ER nurse back on February 3rd? Well, here's some jokes a month later. I've decided to tack onto it. I can do whatever I want. I get up and leave. I think I'll just get up and leave and keep talking to you from over here. I don't know. Maybe I'm getting emotional. I don't want you to see me cry. So I'm just going to come over here and continue the chatting. Come over here. What do you think of that? Anyway, my interview with Cindi Braun Marsten is now. Cindi, how are you? Oh my God.
Oh my gosh. Is it
It's been,
you?
yeah,
Joe Dungan?
yeah. This is
Oh my
not camera
gosh.
trickery. I actually look like this, believe it or not. I don't.
So great to see you.
Likewise, and you look
It-
fantastic.
Oh gosh, likewise to you, sir. It's been
Yeah.
a while.
You know what I think it is? I think our generation is the generation that merely grew up with smokers. We didn't actually smoke.
You didn't?
I know. Oh, did you smoke?
Yes.
You're a nurse and you smoked back then. Okay.
It's a deep, dark secret. And when I actually reveal that I used to, people are like, what? You used to? I did.
Well, how much? It couldn't have been that much.
It's fine. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, no, I'm from Nebraska, Omaha, Nebraska, and all they do there is smoke. Everyone I knew smoked. That was like it was kind of a cultural thing. So, like pretty much everyone else, I started smoking at a very young age. Yeah,
And then
not
when did you
proud of
quit?
it.
But then you quit when you came out here. At a
No,
certain at a certain point out here, you quit.
no, I did once I it took me way too long, but yeah, once I decided I was going to have kids, then I quit.
Yeah. We all have our trick. I've heard stories like that about what compels people to make a change in their lives like that. A buddy of mine tried to quit smoking for years. One day his sister had a heart attack and then
Oh,
he quit instantly. Yeah, we all
oh,
have those things that just hit us. So
yeah,
on
yeah,
that note, little background, people don't know until now. You and I went to college together.
we did.
We I was not a theater major like you, but we traveled in the same circles.
Indeed.
And then I saw this YouTube thing that you did not long ago where you began with a movement thing. You did like one of these or something, and you made everyone else on the Zoom do this. What was that?
So that is a yoga pose commonly called sunflower. And the directive was for me to do a move that the whole panel could copy to get us all sort of into the same vibrational zone. And so my personal movement was the sunflower. So that's what I did.
Okay. And
Yeah.
did you get this from movement class at Cal State Northridge?
Um, we did a lot of that. Yes, we did a lot of movement, in the theater department, a lot of voice and movement exercises, and I carry them with me to this day because they are relaxing.
I wasn't a theater major, but I know so many people who to this day are affected by, it was Linda DeVries's class, correct?
Yes,
Yeah.
that's right.
People, she's legendary among certain circles. Apparently, the
Indeed.
stuff that she did just resonated with a lot of actors that you and I know to this day who still employ some of that stuff.
Indeed. This is true. What was your major? If
I was
I
TV film.
Oh, that's right. So we
Yeah.
were in the same, that's why we were hanging with the same crowd. We were in the same building.
Yeah, the same building, and I much preferred the theater people.
Yeah.
I have many friends and contacts from those days who were theater majors I still talk to. There's maybe two TV film people I talk to all these years later. I gravitated more towards theater.
Ah,
And
yeah. Interesting. We were a
yeah,
fun group.
yeah. Oh, party group. They had their own green room.
We did.
What major has their own lounge? Just wander in there and hang out and see who else is there. And
Yeah. Yeah.
amazing. So on
Exactly.
that note, talking about our choices in life, you said that you wanted to be a healer. I heard
Yes.
you use that term. You didn't say nurse specifically. You said healer. At what age did you say to yourself, "I want to heal people"?
I had an instinct to be a physician when I was very young, like, junior high. I was into science and, I felt like, oh, I want to be a physician. I let my parents know, hey, this is the plan. And then at the age of 12, I was cast in my first play. And then I had the conversation with mom and dad. Guess what? I have a new idea. I'm not going to be a physician. I'm going to be an actress. That was a moment, and they were like,
Yeah, theater is the one bug for which there is no vaccine.
"Yes, indeed." So I was bitten by that bug, and I worked steadily, and I worked a lot, and I loved the theater, and I loved acting, I loved dance, I loved singing, all that stuff. I just loved it. But I kind of like pushed away this whole science healing thing that occurred to me at such a young age. And then I had children. And when my kids were small, they were very, very sick. So early childhood around my house was not, um, it was very stressful. I'll put it that way. My oldest son was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis at the age of 4. Yeah, and there's no gold standard for that diagnosis. So it's really a diagnosis of exclusion. So you spend a week thinking, well, is it cancer? And then you spend a week thinking, oh, is it Mediterranean familial disease? Is it this? And you kind of cross things off the list. And then at the very end of that list, you go, oh, I guess it's rheumatoid arthritis. And you're still not 100% sure. But boy, that makes for a stressful couple of years there.
Yeah.
And then the second one came along, and he had Meckel's diverticulum. So yeah, I know it's people don't know what it is, but how do I say this? Long story short, he ended up needing life-saving surgery because this is a situation where there's an outpouching on the intestine that can burst over time, and it didn't quite burst, but he had to have life-saving interventions, and he was, God, 6 when that happened.
Oh, jeez.
But he had been sick since he was 2 years old. So anyway, so I made an entirely different life decision to become a nurse and to understand their bodies and understand, how I can best serve them, how I can advocate for them. It was a tough road, but that's when everything in my life changed.
Wow, that's a good reason, right?
Yeah,
They're both, just to be clear, they're both okay right now.
they are. Yeah. Yeah. So they're happy and healthy and,
Hmm.
vibrant athletes, which is something that I never sort of envisioned for them when they were little.
Did I hear correctly on Facebook? Your oldest got a scholarship for baseball.
Yeah. Well, yes. So the oldest one is at Puget Sound for baseball, and the younger one, he's a freshman and he committed to Stanford already for
As a
baseball.
freshman?
Yeah, it really took us by surprise, but
Things are
it's super
changing. I
exciting.
don't remember freshmen in high school committing to colleges.
I know. We were blown away, but they've dedicated their lives to this sport, and this is what's happening now. So
And good on them, because I mean, if I can pivot for a minute, one of my crises right now is that I've dedicated my life to so many different things that they've all been compromised. And
mm,
I'm reasonably good at a lot of things, but I'm great at
right.
none of them. So I'm kind of going, what am I doing here? Meanwhile, you got two teenagers who've dedicated their lives to something that they're already pretty good at. So they're on their way.
It does speak to sort of focusing on one thing, doesn't it?
Yeah, it totally, absolutely does. So you make this choice to become a healer, and then did you think, is it too late for med school? Maybe I'll become a nurse. Maybe I'll become a some other kind of healer. How did you decide on nursing?
At that point, I needed to make the decision that would get me there the fastest, right? So we had two, sick little kids, and the fastest path I could find was nursing, because I could do a 2-year program. Well, first I did like 10 years of prereqs, which was, difficult to get through because I had no one watching my kids, and I didn't have a nanny or anything like that. My family doesn't live close. So it was just us, and my husband was working, and I was trying to schedule each little class like during their little preschool time. It was a lot of juggling. But the fastest way I could get there was to go to LA County School of Nursing and get a 2-year associate degree. And then once I was established and working, then I went on and got my BSN. And now I'm probably going to be entering a master's program pretty soon here. So,
Oh, look at you. Good for you.
yeah. So nursing is like a lifelong process of learning. You pretty much never stop going to school or class of some sort,
Oh,
because
I should hope not.
everything's changing.
Yes, I've heard that a lot of doctors just cling to old medicine and they don't really update their thinking, and they keep doing these things that are, well, that might still work, but the preponderance of doctors don't do them anymore. So why are you
Right.
doing this?
Indeed. Yeah. You constantly have to keep up to date on the most cutting edge thing that's going on right now. And it's funny because, you get these newer, younger nurses at the hospital, and they'll quietly say, "Oh, excuse me, but you don't do it that way anymore." And we're like, "Oh my God, they're teaching us so much and they're brand new." But that's how fast things evolve.
And that's amazing that there's that kind of communication, because it seems to me egos might get in the way and say, no, this is how I was taught by the nuns in Europe in the 18th century, and we're doing it this way. Begin the bloodletting, but this sort of
Exactly.
like, no, this
And
is what
that
we're
does
going to do.
happen. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
good for you.
You definitely
Um,
have some nurses that are not wanting to let go, and that's okay too. But we can learn from our younger ones.
yes, we can.
Yeah.
Now, I know there are different kinds of nursing, and you chose to be an ER nurse. Is that correct?
Yeah. So I work in an emergency room and a trauma center. That might speak to my background in drama, because I find it super exciting being in a trauma center where you don't know what's coming through the door, and the adrenaline is pumping. It's a very similar sort of vibe when you're opening a show and anything can happen on stage, and it's a very similar rush, I guess. So I think that's why I chose that.
Now, in your training, I mean, I don't know anything about this world. I'm guessing there wasn't a lot of talk about pandemics.
No. Well, I mean, you definitely have that, paragraph in the textbook where they talk about pandemics.
A
And
paragraph.
yeah,
Two
yeah.
years of nurse schooling, nurse training
What
in
are the
school,
odds?
and you get a paragraph.
Right. Because what are the odds, right? So yeah, it's really interesting, because they do mention it and they talk about, some of the aspects of a pandemic, but you don't spend much time on it. Pandemics happen, what, every, how many years? A
Last
hundred.
one was a century ago, apparently.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, or something. It's a long time. So there was not a lot of emphasis on that.
so I think my question now then is, obviously you have some, you understand the the drama of what's going on every night. There's a certain amount of triaging going on. I imagine there's multiple ambulances showing up at once, and you have to figure out he's first, he's second, and so forth. But
Right.
now this is scaled up to some massive level that no one anticipated, and it's daily. It's 24/7 for the last several weeks. What,
Relentless.
how do you draw on your experience based on schooling and work experience to go, how are we going to do this?
Yeah. Good question. It's really tough because when you're in nursing school, it's funny. I was just talking with one of my friends from nursing school about this just a couple days ago. When you're in nursing school, you have scenarios. Your teacher will give you a scenario and say, you have this patient and they're this old and this is the disease processes going on and these are the vitals. What do you do? Right? So they kind of lay it out and you got to use your skills and your critical thinking to say, oh, what would I do in that situation? Well, I could never have imagined one of my preceptors saying, okay, so you have multiple patients coming in and they're all having a very hard time breathing and their oxygen saturation is lowering. And guess what? You run out of oxygen. What would you do? And you'd go, run out of oxygen? That would never happen. That wouldn't be a thing. Guess what? It's a thing. It is a thing. People are running out of oxygen, and it's hard to even fathom that. But you get people rolling in the door, and then you start to have to sort of decide, who can do without the oxygen. Can this person not have the oxygen and still do okay? It's a very slippery slope. It's like a tightrope that you walk, that you hope to God you never have to make a decision like that.
And have you had to make those decisions with people?
Yeah, it's gotten to the point a couple of weeks ago where we had to be real careful about, well, how many vents are left? How many oxygen canisters are left? Who are we going to give them to? There's one bed left in the ICU, but I have 30 people waiting. What am I going to do? I mean, it's unreal. It's unreal. It's a situation that you hope you never have to get into, but hospitals are forming ethics committees to help them with these types of decisions, because we in America, we're used to having what we need to serve everyone, who comes to the door. It's frightening.
Well, yeah, and it's not, not only are you not trained professionally to handle something like this, but on a personal level, do you drive home thinking, "Oh my God, did I kill somebody tonight?" And you're put in
Yeah.
an impossible situation because you can't save everybody. So, how do you give yourself a break?
It's really hard because also during the pandemic, there's limited ways that you can practice self-care. And self-care is the number one thing that you really have to focus on to get through all of this. You have to focus on what makes me happy, what are the things that relax me, what are the things that bring me pleasure. But you can't go anywhere. You can't really see anyone. So it's tricky. So what I have found is that um, couple of things. Falling back on exercise, first of all, getting those endorphins going. Over this pandemic, I've become a runner. And my philosophy in life up until this point has always been only run when chased. I mean, why would you like pleasure run? Why would you do that? That's
Yep.
awful. It's not fun. So my gym closed. I was a big yogi. I used to love yoga. And once the gym closed, I kind of lost that flair because I like the group setting of yoga, and doing it by myself is not as pleasurable for me. So I became a runner because guess what? You can go outside and run in a pandemic. You can do that. So I would go to the beach on my days off and run along Will Rogers Santa Monica Beach. And I could pretend that it's not happening. I could look at the water and the sun sparkling on the ocean and forget that there's a pandemic. And the endorphins were there, and you could see people, spread out on the beach. And it's like, oh, this looks normal. This is a little bit of normal. And so that was really something that really helped me get through all of this. And then, checking in frequently with um, with loved ones and people that you haven't talked to in a while. I've received so many random phone calls from, hey, this is so-and-so from 20 years ago, remember me? And there's this feeling of really reaching out to one another because, in normal times, life is so busy and gets in the way. You'd never think of calling that person that you knew 20 years ago. But there was this big surge of people reaching out to each other because you can't go anywhere, you don't see anyone. So start going through your phone going, oh, I haven't talked to you in so long. How are you? There's time to talk. So those two things really have kept me going during this time.
Yeah, we've you have to adapt. I mean, everybody
Yeah.
has to adapt. You try to figure out your coping mechanisms. And I know a lot of people struggle with anxiety and panic attacks. I have. I've been pretty open about it, and I've talked to other people about it. And as I say to people, humans aren't designed for all this crap.
Yeah.
We're not designed. So we have to learn self-care, which is another thing no one teaches you in school.
Yeah.
I don't remember any day in public school or even college where they said, okay, here's how to take care of yourself when
Right.
things turn to shit.
Yeah. No,
And it's
nobody
just like, yeah, I
mentioned
guess
that.
I'll drink. I guess I'll drink and smoke weed because that's what I see on television and all my friends are doing it. And, the day is going to come and people are going to say, you did what when you were younger? Why didn't you stop and meditate? Why didn't you stop and do this?
Indeed, yeah. Sadly, that is overlooked. It's an overlooked skill to know how to take care of yourself and find your bliss. But
And on that note, we'll wrap it up with this, because you're talking about looking at the ocean and forgetting there's a pandemic. To me, that's the greater narrative of also the information we choose to take in, because I think one of the things that has really screwed people up in the last year is their media diet. They
yeah,
choose to, the news loves to catastrophize. They
uh,
love the story about the ER that's the worst ER in the world, and they love the story about the city that's lost more people than any other city, and on and on and on.
yeah,
Whereas there's a lot more to the picture than that. I'm not saying pandemic isn't terrible; it is terrible, but there's
yeah.
so much more to the picture than that. And that included in that are people who think that the vaccine will not help us, which
Right.
I'm kind of having a hard time with, and people who think this is bogus. Well, I didn't have it. Well, you didn't have smallpox either. Do you think smallpox exists, or is that fiction? You know what I mean? Just little lapses in logic that you can't build a bridge to. So I'm
Yeah.
wondering if there's any, how do you talk to people who say this is too big, they're making too big of a deal out of it, and the vaccines aren't going to help, and just take your vitamin D and get sunlight, or whatever nonsense. How do you reach these people?
Oh gosh, that's been so very difficult. Talking about media diet, I'd work all day in the pandemic and then I would come home and, I would see it on the news and pretty soon I had to shut it all down. I couldn't do it all day and live it all day and then come home and watch it on TV all day. I couldn't do that. It was way, way too overwhelming. Um, and with social media and all of the opinions that people are flinging around, and, a lot of which people, say the pandemic isn't real or isn't as intense or whatever. I can't even describe the fury that it causes inside to have me and my team risking our lives every single day and people just blowing it off like, oh, we need to open the bars. We need to open the bars. We need to open the bars and the restaurants. And, the whole economic factor of the pandemic is just as overwhelming and tragic. However, we have to treat this thing like it's real or it's never going to end. That's the thing. If we don't do what we're supposed to do, and it was so poorly handled in the beginning that, here we are today, and it's so raging out of control because we didn't do A, B, and C. Well, if everybody can just buckle down and do A, B, and C, we could get over this real quick. I myself, I am fully vaccinated at this point. I was really on the fence in the beginning because of all the media around it. Um, it's not safe and it got pushed through way too quickly and it's bad. And I don't know. I just wasn't willing to risk it because I see what happens when you don't take it. You don't take the vaccine and you do get COVID. I've seen what that's like. I know I don't want that.
Right, right. I mean, that's
So,
those are what the two choices boil down to. Now, that's interesting you say that you had doubts about the vaccine. How did you feel about vaccines in general before this pandemic?
oh, I get them all. I'm required to because of my work. I get them all.
Yeah.
So I'm in no way an anti-vaxxer at all. I mean, I've always gotten the flu shot and I've gotten everything. Um, but unfortunately, there was a lot of um, mistrust in the leadership. So I was real cautious because I didn't quite trust what was happening in the leadership of this country. I didn't think it was handled well, and I thought, oh, now they're making a vaccine. Are they going to handle that well? I just don't know. I just don't know. But when the world's leading epidemiologist comes onto the television and says, take it, it's going to save us, it's safe. If you don't trust that, what do you trust?
Yeah,
You
exactly.
know?
And I think that's a big, big narrative and lesson throughout all of this is why do people believe what they believe? Who are you going to trust and why? And
Yeah,
we're learning. But this is problems really reveal character, you know?
indeed.
It's like those lessons in sports, you know, when you're losing, that's when you find out what you're made of. And I think we've learned an awful lot. Well, now that I've got you all in a fury, it's time to go to work. Cindi, great catching up with you. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you for telling us all about what's been going on in your perspective on this awfulness. That I hope the worst is behind us and we're starting to head out of the forest instead of into it. Is that a fair analogy?
It feels like it. It feels like there is hope. It feels like there's a light at the end of the tunnel. It really
Yeah.
does. So hopefully we can buckle down and get through all this together, and we can once again meet people and be in person and go to those bars and whatever people are dying to do and whatever they miss and all that stuff.
As I've been telling people, the parties this year are going to be amazing.
Right.
Just wait. Just wait, everybody. Don't go to, no, not now, but you know, summer, fall, whenever this is finally kind of behind us, then sure.
Right.
Um, Thank you
Indeed.
so much. Say
Thanks,
hi
Joe.
to the Kenny, and I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, man. Take care.
Take care. Hey everyone, it's Joe with some closing thoughts after all the words. I know I had some opening thoughts, and then we talked for half an hour, and now I got closing thoughts. And yeah, I don't know what you're thinking. Maybe you're liking all of this, but I'm thinking, Joe, you're just adding words. You said enough words. Why are you putting more words on? A few reasons. Number one, this is take two of my closing word segment. I didn't even know I was going to have a closing word segment until a moment ago. So I did take one, and I said, no, I'm not doing that. I'm doing another take. This is take two of that, because in take one, I forgot to apologize for showing my pit stains. A couple minutes in when I put my arms up, it was not even that hot in here. It was only about 9:45 in the morning when I did that. Why was I sweating so much? And a big ups to Cindi Marston for doing what she does every day. I mean, my God, especially when you meet some people in the human race, you're going, ugh, I got to save this asshole's life. Ugh. And there she is risking her health to do it. So be nice to these people, huh? And if you have any thoughts, feel free to put them, write them down in the chat, in the comment section of whatever your YouTube or the Instagram or whatever you're looking at right now. Unless they're nasty comments, then shove them. That's it. I'm a talk show host. I'm going to do this again. I hope you liked it.